with Erik ten Hag coming out and criticising Sancho for his lack of effort in training, and then Sancho denying these claims on social media, a huge fallout has occurred. The media hasn't stopped talking about it for weeks, and Sancho has now been dropped from the first team for the foreseeable future. This made us think about all the past huge fallouts between managers and players. And so in this video, we will take a look at 7 of the biggest fallouts between managers and players. Before we get started, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Number 7. Mourinho and Shevchenko. In Mourinho's first spell at Chelsea, he won back-to-back league titles in 2005 and 2006, but that success would end up being short-lived, thanks to the rocky relationship between Mourinho and Andrei Shevchenko. The Ukrainian arrived at Stamford Bridge in 2006, and whilst he came with a huge reputation from AC Milan, Mourinho wanted Samuel Eto'o as a striker, and not him. But Roman Abramovich was friends with Shevchenko and had wanted to sign him for 3 years, so wanted Mourinho to make it work. Shevchenko, however, struggled to adapt to the English game, and the informed Didier Drogba forced him to play out wide. With Mourinho being denied the opportunity to sign another striker the following January, he dropped Shevchenko, but was subsequently told by Abramovich that he would not get another striker and needs to play Shevchenko properly. Ironically, the Ukrainian ended up scoring the last goal in Mourinho's first reign at Chelsea, as he was sacked earlier on in the 2007/2008 season. Number 6. Sir Alex and Stam. Sir Alex, as we all know, was known to be a ruthless manager and did not like anyone challenging his authority or stepping out of line. Stam found this out firsthand when he was forced out of the club in 2001. He arrived at the club in 1998 and had an incredibly successful, albeit short time, winning 3 league titles, the FA Cup and the Champions League. But he was sold to Lazio in 2001 as Sir Alex was upset at some of the comments Stam made in his autobiography. While still at the club, he revealed some inner secrets of his move from PSV, claiming Sir Alex had tapped him up, i.e. spoke to him without PSV's permission. Days before Stam was sold, he stormed out of training and Sir Alex tracked him down at a local petrol station, letting him know his United career was essentially over. Years later, Sir Alex would come out and say that selling Stam was one of the biggest mistakes he made as a manager. Number 5. Pep Guardiola and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. In the summer of 2009, Guardiola signed Zlatan from Inter Milan, but the move was spoilt due to a clash in personalities between manager and player. Initially, things went well for Zlatan as he scored 7 league goals in his first 7 games, but then the Swede grew tired of Pep's apparent favouritism towards a 22-year-old Lionel Messi. According to journalist Sebastian Fest, Messi indicated his unhappiness at the arrival of Zlatan and told Pep, "I see I'm not important anymore." Pep in response decided to offload Zlatan and build his team around Messi. And whilst it's hard to argue against Pep's decision given the success he had, Zlatan hasn't forgiven him since, labelling him a coward. He told Sky Sports Italia in 2017, "I'd walk into a room and he'd walk out. I'd go to meet him and he'd go somewhere else. I understood that there was something beyond football." Number 4. Sir Alex and David Beckham. Beckham's global fame and public relationship had always been a source of anger for Sir Alex Ferguson. An example of this is when Beckham once missed training due to his son being ill, but when his wife Victoria was photographed at a London Fashion Week event on the same night, Sir Alex Ferguson was furious. He told Beckham he could have trained if Victoria had looked after their son instead. But the breaking point came in February 2003. Manchester United had just been defeated 2-0 in the FA Cup by then fierce rivals Arsenal, and Ferguson unleashed his anger in the dressing room after the game, mainly on Beckham. He accused Beckham of making a mistake in the game and then kicked a boot in anger which went flying and hit Beckham above the eye, creating a massive wound. Beckham's PR team made sure that all the newspapers knew of this incident, and Ferguson, realising that he was no longer in control of the situation, told the board that Beckham had to go, and in the summer he was sold to Real Madrid. Number 3. Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane. We could have easily gone for the infamous bust-up between Fergie and Keane, who till this day don't speak to each other. But the bust-up between McCarthy and Keane, labelled as the Saipan incident, was just as huge. In 2002, Roy Keane, star of Manchester United, was captain of the Irish national team and was getting ready to lead them into the 2002 World Cup in Japan. In preparation, the team was training on an island called Saipan, but Keane, accustomed to the world-class facilities in Manchester, had issues with the training facilities as well as travel arrangements and food. He revealed all of this in an interview with the Irish Times, and when McCarthy called him out on it in a team meeting, a huge argument began. McCarthy then accused Keane of having faked an injury during a game, after which Keane began to verbally abuse McCarthy, saying, "I didn't rate you as a player, I don't rate you as a manager, and I don't rate you as a person. You can stick your World Cup up your Needless to say, Keane wasn't on the plane for Japan. Number 2. Mourinho and Iker Casillas. Real Madrid legend Casillas had a huge falling out with manager Jose Mourinho. It all began when Casillas was dropped for a game against Malaga, with Mourinho saying the reason was purely technical. Whilst Casillas initially took it well, the media didn't, making a big story out of his dropping. Then the next game versus Sociedad, Casillas was dropped once again and fans, upon finding out, began to boo Mourinho. But reserve keeper Adan was red carded during the game, and as a result Casillas made his way back into the team. Normality seemed to have been restored. But later on in the season, Casillas broke his hand, and Spanish outlet Marca reported the day after that him and Ramos went to Perez and said either Mourinho had to go or they wanted to be sold in the summer. Diego Lopez was bought in January, and even when Casillas returned from injury, he was benched. Mourinho would end up being sacked at the end of the season, having lost control of the dressing room, and no doubt his issues with Casillas would have been a huge factor. Number 1. Mancini and Carlos Tevez. Carlos Tevez had always been a difficult player to manage throughout his career, and Mancini found this out firsthand. Ahead of the 2010-11 season, Mancini made Tevez club captain, but just 4 months later, Tevez would hand in a transfer request. After a brief back and forth with the club and his agent, he withdrew his transfer request and finished the season on 20 league goals, winning the Golden Boot. There were rumours that Tevez would leave the club in the summer, especially when he went on a TV show in Argentina and said he wouldn't return to Manchester even for a vacation. Nevertheless, he did return, and the big bust-up between him and Mancini came in September 2011 in a Champions League group game versus Bayern. He started the game on the bench, and when Mancini told him to warm up to come on, he refused, saying he had already warmed up a while ago. This became a huge story in the footballing world, and after the incident, Mancini vowed that Tevez would never play for City again. However, he did return to the first team a few months later and didn't leave the club until June 2013. And that was it for the 7 biggest fallouts between a manager and a player. Having seen how those situations ended up, how do you think the Ten Hag Sancho saga will end? Will he eventually return to the team like Tevez did, or will he be sold in January? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.